through this. My hope is to make this, as I mentioned, interactive as much as possible. My name is Amar Patel. I have been chairing the Service to Academy group for a number of years now. I'm a fellow for the Society, and certainly chair the application process as well. So we work through the application process for a number of years, certainly refining it year over year, and ensuring that you have the tools that you need to be successful in your application process. So my goal here today is to ensure that we provide you with what you need, and then answer any questions that may be present as we go through this, and certainly put some best practices in place so that by the time you apply, you have everything that's there, and then we can hopefully get your application through with success. So we've got a number of slides that are present. You should see me on the screen as well. Our hope here is to do a little bit of the introductions. We'll talk a little bit about what the Academy is and what the FSSH Academy works on. Mission, vision, and impact. We'll talk about current workflows of the fellows, the application process, the application review process, and then kind of open the floor a little bit to a Q&A session. So the Academy itself is this ideal opportunity to recognize individuals who have had sustained contributions in simulation to the work of the Society for Simulation in Healthcare, as well as a little bit of focus on some research elements. And certainly two of the three are important, right? So we want to make sure that you've got sustained contributions across the industry and the work that you're doing. And that's done in a number of different ways. Research is one of those ways, contributing to the work of the society is another way. But the key here is that you've had that sustained contributions and an impact in the field of healthcare simulation. We had just recently done a revision to the mission and vision of the Academy. And as you can see, the vision of the Society for Simulation Healthcare Academy is to really assemble a group of community leaders, experts, thought leaders, we call them fellows, who lead in the advancement and transformation of simulation across the world. We are 100% focused on recognizing individuals whose sustained, substantial contributions have really made an impact in the field of healthcare simulation. And these individuals are contributing their time and talent to advance the mission and the goals for the society in simulation healthcare. They oftentimes provide vision and leadership in the simulation community, and those that are selected are simulationists, right? These are individuals that are in it every day. They're working closely with community members across the world, and their work continues to be outstanding in nature. And that is what we believe that the Fellows of the Society for Simulation Healthcare really stands for. So a fellow of SSH is a group of leaders. They're considered renowned simulationists who are recognized for having these contributions. And you're going to hear this continue to pop up. When we say sustained contributions, that's the piece of it that we're going to continue to reiterate. So what is the benefit? Why should you apply for this process? It's a recognition of your contributions to SSH and the healthcare simulation community. It is contributing to a future path and for individuals within the simulation community, and it helps the SSH project directions forward. It also provides an influential and advancing art, science, and practice of healthcare simulation as part of this group. So, these members of the fellows group are really continuing to push the envelope in simulation healthcare and really helping to contribute to establishing these standards and best practices and leveraging lots of other talent all over the world to continue to do that. We do expect fellows to be active in the SSH Academy, and their activity is really there to advance the mission and vision of SSH and the SSH Academy through continued high levels of initiatives. We're broken up into three groups within the Academy, where we have service to SSH. They focus on ambassadorship, they focus on reflections and advice on strategic direction, and certainly on advocacy. Service to Academy, this is the group I currently chair. We focus on the mission and vision. We focus on fellow development work. We focus on application, reviews, and process. We're working closely on the fee structure and then any marketing to really help continue to grow the Academy itself. And then the last but not least is service to membership. And service to membership focuses on mentorship, scholarship, research, and then the IMSH Fellows track that exists. So there are three big criteria that we look for in the application process. It's the membership in SSH for a minimum of 5 years. It's your contributions to the society. And then, as I mentioned, the contributions to the field of healthcare simulation. The application window is once a year. We will open up the application in May. It'll be open through May and into June, a little bit into June. We do close it because it does take a little bit of time for the administrative side of the application process to go through to make sure that we have all the paperwork in place and to ensure that all of the applications are complete. If you have challenges with the application process, if you have challenges with submitting information, I encourage you to reach out to Mr. Andrew Spain, who'll be able to assist you in ensuring that all of the pieces and parts are in place as well. There are a number of things that we want you to submit. We want you to submit your online application. We want you to certainly submit or upload your simulation-specific resume and CV. I'll talk about that here in a second. We do require references. And then certainly there is a fee associated with the application. And as you can imagine, the fee covers the review process and time, right? So us as individual fellows are not necessarily, we're reviewing this as part of the work of growing the simulation itself, but this covers a lot of the work and functionality of the application and managing the application itself. You can nominate an individual to apply. And the link is provided below. And the nomination really highlights what you believe to be their work in contributing in creating a sustained contribution to the society and to healthcare simulation as a whole. And so, we certainly encourage individuals to nominate others. It's a great way to show the value that those individuals provide into the community, and you're simply also attesting to that value as well, which is always a great way to show the impact that individuals are having. So let's talk a little bit about the simulation specific CV. We, when we review the application process, only look at very small pieces of information. So we're looking at the Society for Simulation Online database. This is what's in SSH's database. And what's also in that database that's important to note is all of your service work, how many years you've been a member, what committees have you contributed to, what have you already done across the healthcare industry, and across, the healthcare simulation industry that has made that sustained contribution. So that sits in that database. We certainly encourage you to make sure that you review that, and you can do that through the online portal. If you go to ssih.org, log in, and then you can certainly look at your own background and information and validate that all that information is up to date. If you feel like you're missing information in there, for example, you were on External Relations Committee a number of years ago, or you chaired ERC a number of years ago, and that seems to be missing from your from that database, reach out to Andrew, and then let's see if we can get it added into there, because it's one of the pieces we certainly look at, and we realize that sometimes things do get missed, so it's important to make sure that you're checking that. Second is we don't go scouring the internet for you, right? So what we have in front of us, we always say, look at the LinkedIn profile, right? So we take a look at the LinkedIn profile. And then last but not least is going to be all of the materials that you hand us, right? So this is the reference materials that are present. So these are your references themselves. We will review and take a look at those. And then we'll look at your simulation specific CV. So if we look at your CV, it's 10 pages and it has everything about all other types of employment that you've done, and it only has 2 lines tied to simulation specific work. It's going to be hard for us to really understand your sustained contributions to healthcare simulation. So we really do encourage folks to have a simulation specific CV that talks about all the things that you've done in healthcare simulation. And we've seen a number of different ways to do this. If you take your normal CV and simply highlight the areas that you want to share out, to really point out all the healthcare specific stuff, healthcare simulation specific stuff, great. We've also had folks write a brand new resume that only highlighted the simulation specific stuff as well. But the only things that we look at are those small pieces. And if it's difficult for the committee to really filter through and understand, it does make it difficult for them to review. And then, sorry, last thing we also look at is your application. And so I want to talk about that as well in detail. But really put stuff in place so that everything you're highlighting is healthcare simulation specific, and it highlights your work that's present. Oftentimes where people have the most challenges isn't that they haven't done amazing work, it's how it's formatted or how it's submitted to the committee, and it's hard for them to really understand the pieces and the contributions and really replay the story. Remember, these individuals may or may not know you, and so they're relying on all these materials to really paint that picture of your work and your contributions that you've made. And that picture and that work is such an important thing because that helps us ensure that you're able to cross the line and work through the application process. The online application itself, there are some areas that are very succinct. I would encourage you to have other people review your app, the questions and what you submit, and making sure that what you write answers the question that's present. And it does so in a way that if they didn't know who you were and they didn't know what you've done, that really it paints that perfect picture for you. So ask others to read your story. Ask individuals that don't know about your healthcare simulation work to see if it matches the criteria in the rubric and the application really matches in line. And that's where we've seen some of the greatest successes is been, leveraging friends and other family members who don't know what you've done, but they get a chance to read the application and you get to paint that picture in a way that makes sense. We do offer a pre-application self-assessment worksheet. This is posted on the FSSH.org website. Again, highlighting the criteria that's present, 5 years of membership, sustained contributions to SSH, and then sustained contributions to field of simulation. We ask that you really spend some time looking at the reflective questions. If you haven't started your application now, already, I would encourage you certainly to start the pre-application self-assessment worksheet, really go through each of these individual questions and really help you answering the full application process. But spend a little bit of time doing this reflective questions, really setting yourself for success. Don't try to submit this application on the first day it opens. If it's a 30-day window, take 20 days and really spend some time getting it. In the meantime, in that 20 days, get your references squared away. So really build the timeline to ensure that you've set yourself up for true success in a grand scheme. We do have guidelines for references as well, and these guidelines ensure that we have all of the right information that's relevant to ensure that we have a good ability to be able to evaluate your submission and the references that are provided to back, to really back and provide good references to your application itself. And so all the references have to have the applicant's name, the relationship to the applicant, how long that they've known you, and then certainly we're going to ask two very poignant questions, examples of an insight into the sustained and impact that you've made, as well as a little bit of discussions around the relationship you have with the individual and how you may or may not have worked together in previous roles and organizations. There is a form desk link that you'll see above. It's the second paragraph on your screen, and that's the place that we ask individuals to complete to support the application of the individual, and this will get dumped and tied into your full application itself. One other point to certainly make here, and that is that we highly encourage you to have at least one of your references be a current fellow. The reason why we did that was that it also gave an opportunity for a fellow to provide a little bit of guidance and mentorship in your review of your application and really sit down and have that conversation with you about your sustained contributions, the work that you've been doing, the differentiators that are in play, because these are all really important things to highlight in the application as well as in the references themselves. So as I mentioned, the evaluation process is based on the app, the CV, the letters of references. We certainly look at the SSH database as well. And so, certainly take some time, even in your CV, and, highlight the number of years that you've been on committees, highlight the type of work that you've been doing and, and the impact it's had, and certainly highlight that as well in the application itself. And then, again, we use these elements to really demonstrate, to help us show that you've got sustained contributions to SSH and the healthcare simulation community as a whole. just as an example of certainly of evidence of sustained contributions to SSH in the healthcare simulation community, these are not inclusive at all. There's countless others that are out there, but it gives you an idea of the level of what we're looking for, right? And so you've held offices, you've been council or committee chairs before, you've been a reviewer of the journal or on the editorial board, you're chairing a section or a SIG or an AG, you've been IMSH faculty or a course director in the past. Also important to highlight that you've got current SSH certifications, and there's countless other roles and responsibilities that you may have taken into place that drive that, right? You've had some groundbreaking research that has really reshaped the work. You've published in this arena and are considered the expert. So there's so many different things that are out there that will help drive that messaging of sustained contributions to both the society and the healthcare simulation community as a whole. So the review process is done in 3 ways. The first is that we do a document management review. This is done through the team at the society. It ensures that all of the pieces and parts are together, and then all the documents are available are present, and it meets the criteria that are currently established. There is fellows are broken up, so this is a fellows to fellows review. And the fellows are asked to do a virtual review. And so we do establish criteria for conflicts of interest. As an example, someone that provides you with a recommendation letter cannot review or approve your application. And these are done in small groups. So a review is done thoroughly. A virtual review, is done using a set criterion or rubric to measure the application itself against it. And then COIs are certainly exempt from reviewing your app. And then a completely different group of people conduct an in-person review at an offsite location and do spend some time reviewing the application. And virtual review is one step. In-person review is different. The in-person reviewers don't know the outcome of the virtual reviewers, and the virtual reviewers don't know the outcomes of the in-person reviews. And it is those 2 independent reviews that ultimately drive to a success of the application, right? And so there is independent reviews that are done intentionally, and it's to ensure that we have a complete picture of an individual's background, information, history, and there is no concern for biasness that is present. There is a fee structure, as I mentioned early on. The application fee is $100. There are annual dues that you will be asked to pay. It's $250 starting in the first year. You are also required to maintain your SSH membership. That is on top of the annual dues. We try to do really well at making sure that both are due at the same time. But understand that there are 2 different dues that you'll have to pay on top of the application fee when you submit the application. So common questions that we get. We talked a little bit about simulation-specific CV or resume. And so again, if you've got questions on that, feel free to ask either in the chat or go ahead and unmute and ask away. But try to really tell us a little bit about your simulation-specific work. It helps differentiate the application with the rest of the stuff that may be in a CV or your past work that you've done. Is this a developmental or learning fellowship? And the answer is actually no. This is not a development or learning fellowship. Fellows have already shown sustained contributions. We do certainly help each other grow, and we certainly do help others grow. But this fellows group has established a rapport in the simulation industry, work closely to create standards and best practices, and is now contributing to further growing the industry as a whole and growing individuals to certainly be the next generation of simulationists all over us. What do the fees support? So the fees certainly support all of the ongoing administrative management of the fellows. It supports the application review process. It certainly supports the celebrations that are that if we were in person, we would do an in-person celebration and a dinner to highlight your work in the awards banquet and stuff. It also certainly supports some of the work of the service groups. And so the fees do cover a lot of those efforts across the board. As you can imagine, it's certainly not collectively cheap to do rewards and review and everything else. But the fellows do, the fellows applications and those pieces do cover those administrative fees. And then the question we often get is, what is meant by being an active in the FSSH Academy? We ask that you certainly participate in the committees, contribute to the work that we're doing. If there are presentations that we're doing as part of IMSH, we ask that you contribute to those. If there's mentor or mentee opportunities available, be part of that. If there are mission and vision settings that's present, be part of that, right? It's not a tremendous amount of effort or work, but it certainly allows for your knowledge and depth and breadth to be shared with others to really establish the foundations of the work that we're doing. So it's continuing to contribute to this effort in growing the society as a whole and continuing to grow the next generation of simulationists. So I have certainly some advice as you're working on this. It's prepare. Take the time to really put a plan in place before you apply for it and submit it. Reach out to SSH and to ensure that your profile is correct, as I mentioned before. Spend time on your resume and CV. We've seen applications in the past where they just don't tell us enough, right? It's very one-worded. The resume doesn't support the application. And so spend the time to really build your resume and make it simulation specific. Spend the time to answer the questions that are present. We ask that you start your application in a Word document. Check the grammar, the spelling, the language, how you articulate. Is it paint the picture properly for the question that's being asked? Take the time to do this. For a multitude of reasons, but really, we want you to see you succeed. And something so simple can create so many challenges that take the time to do that because you have the time. And then ultimately also ask for help, right? Ask for a fellow to give you a hand, ask for other individuals' advice, ask for somebody who doesn't know you about your background to read the application to see if they understand all the work that you've done and contributed. Because if somebody who doesn't know you can read it and tell you all the amazing things that you did, that's a great way to show that you've got a pretty strong application. So with that, I will stop and pause, and I'll kind of open the floor for any questions.
Hi, Amar, this is Andrew.
Any additional thoughts?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I actually wanted to just add some clarifications on the demonstration of sustained contributions, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Is everyone
planning to apply this year?
Can you hear me, Amar? Amar, can you hear me?
All right. Any other thoughts? No? Okay. Well, certainly reach out to myself. I'm always available. If you have a question, have a comment, have a concern, just need some advice on something else, please feel free to reach out. We're certainly actively working on also putting a mentor list together. So if there's mentors out there that you want to work with, we're certainly happy to help you with that as well, right? So feel free to reach out on those. I think, Linda, you just unmuted, so I'm happy to answer anything you may have. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you for spending a few minutes of your afternoon with us to talk a little bit about this. We're super excited. I hope to see your applications as they come through. And again, always available. Feel free to reach out if you've got any questions or want to bounce anything off of us. We're happy to do so. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks so much, everyone.